Today we're checking out a game called Sand, which is less rough, less coarse, and will hopefully get everywhere. Then in less time than the McRibs around, Blue Protocol has come and gone. CD Projekt Red tells us they're full steam ahead on Witcher 4. Then I take you down the deep, dark paths of the core way to the war within.
Hi, this is Nick, and this corn-related intro will make sense in a month.
Hi, I'm Josh, and now you too have thought about the Roman Empire today.
And I'm Andy. This is Video Game Tango. Omelette du fromage.
Omelette.
It's a cheese omelet.
Yes, it is. I was going to say hello and welcome in a couple of different languages, and because we were starting, my brain just went, you forgot all of those words.
I got you. Royale with cheese.
Thank you.
That's hello in movie speak.
Yes, 100% in Pulp Fiction. Well, hey!
J on my pal, Josh.
There you go. Hello, everybody.
It's time for video game news and talk, discussions.
There's a smidge of it.
A little bit going on.
It's a smidge week.
This week has been fairly smidgy.
It's a week of smidges.
That sounds like a thing you can't say.
Yeah, well, I said it.
Smidgy, you know? That sounds like if you had a panel of people and you said, is smidgy a one? I feel like I don't feel like that one would make it, you know?
Smidgy
Yes.
is trying to look at something, but you can't see it well because there's too many dead bugs on your windshield.
Smidgy's a Pokemon.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Well, speaking of Pokemon, let's talk about some video games.
That's wonderful transition.
Nick,
Hello.
let's start with you.
Yeah, it caught my eye. A little thing. The thing caught my eye. Smidgy. I found a video on the internet, of all things, the other day, showcasing a little game coming out of a couple different devs working together out of Ukraine called Sand. The game is still a little coarse, a little rough. It hasn't gotten everywhere yet because it's not out. I knew. I beat you to it.
Yeah, you did.
But it is interesting. Think Sea of Thieves, but instead of pirate boats in a fantasy waterland, it's diesel punk, four-legged AT-ATs in a desert set, I believe, right after or during the Ottoman Empire's reign. So you get to not only pilot these giant diesel punk mechs and go after other players and their groups and raid them and attack their ships and take all that stuff and do objectives on the map, but you also get to build the mechs like Lego pieces style.
Oh,
I think you have point allotments depending on how big of a ship you want. And it kind of looked like about halfway through the video, like the Starfield ship builder style with like chunks, modules that you piece together. You choose your base frame, like the size, how many legs you want. And then you build all your rooms and like what security you want on doors for anti-boarding purposes. And then you throw on your like kerosene powered AA guns and your, smooth bore artillery things. And then you get to actually jump in the mech and pilot it.
smoother shipbuilding than
Starfield.
Yeah, it actually works.
Yeah.
So I looked up the dev teams. One of them, the main one, Hologriff, previously worked on Secret Neighbor and Party Hard 2. Both got pretty good reviews. Completely different games from this one.
Yeah.
But it shows that they can put out a solid game. The other dev team, Tower House, does a lot of outsourcing for art design. They've done that for other games. But seemed really cool. No release date. Their Steam page does have quite a few devlogs and updates. I've been posting at least about once a month. They mentioned that they will have a closed playtest coming up soon. You can join their Discord for more information and I imagine potential signing up to the closed beta. But they lay it all out in quite good detail. It shows me that this is already a dev that's willing to be open and honest and communicative with their audience even before the game's released, which is always a great sign. Minimum system requirements aren't terrible. Windows 8, Intel Core i5, 10 gigs of memory, GTX 760, Radeon 270, DX11. That's about mid-range right now.
That's in the low range.
Yeah,
Yeah,
low range right now. But yeah, just looked awesome. All I've seen so far is this trailer and what I looked up. But I love this kind of setting, this weird, like, quasi Lawrence of Arabia, fake desert with, turn of the century mechanics and design.
Yeah.
Using actual binoculars to look for other walkers and an actual physical map to lay out where you're going. So yeah, very cool. I'm looking forward to seeing more on this. And again, this game is Sand. Should show up on Steam if you search for it.
Yeah, I mean, based on what I'm seeing so far, the mech building side of it does look pretty smooth and intuitive. Mm-hmm. It looks like, for the most part, the Lego description is pretty apt. Except for it's like setting Lego sets together. It's like you get the cockpit from something, and then the engines from another thing, all, like pre-built almost. So yeah, and to be honest, it looks almost exactly like their Starfield builder. I wouldn't be surprised if they took some inspiration and said we could do this better, and it looks like they did. Good. I mean, just based on having done Starfield's ship editor and gotten super frustrated with that thing, this already does look better. So,
but this is a game like we just saw of him requesting more ammo for his big gun, and you have to carry the box up to the gun and reload it. It's not automatic, so it's similar to some other pirate-esque games of that manner, where you have to manually load cannons and bore them and do all that stuff. Can only imagine it's going to be a hoot to have a group of people playing, yelling at people. Do this, do that. Holy shit! Yeah.
While Sea of Thieves may have missed me, it's hard to believe that a turret-mounted mech will.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
That's a whole different beast.
See, the thing is, people keep trying to make games, but they're not making Ring of Red 3, and that's their problem.
They haven't even made Ring of Red 2. I just please.
I thought there was a Ring of Red 2.
No, man, there's just Ring of Red, and that's it. And that game.
Oh, that's true. Yeah,
that game deserves a sequel, or a remaster, even.
No, it's a sequel.
Yes, of course. Yes. But a remaster getting into more people's hands, I'd fine with that too. That game did not get played by enough people. Yeah. And that kind of combat, that quasi turn-based, I loved it so much. Anywho, we're not here to talk about Ring of Red, although I don't know, we should. Josh, you've got some news for us.
Yeah, so just to kind of follow up on last week, Nick talking a lot about the Stop Killing Games initiative that's picking up a little bit of steam over in the EU. But I kind of wanted to, when we mentioned a game or two in the moment, short, in a compact way about why it was important, but boy, wouldn't you know it, just a short week later, there's another reason why that initiative matters and why we should be thinking about that. So Bandai Namco has announced that the Japanese version of its live service anime MMO Blue Protocol will be ending on January 18th of the year of our Lord 2025. Now, after
unnecessary, but cool.
Yeah.
Go for it.
After discussions with Amazon Games, the release of the title in Europe and US is also obviously canceled. If it's being canceled there, it's being canceled everywhere. Mm-hmm. Now, this has been, honestly, it missed me. This is not my style of game. But one of my friends, a person we know, I believe they mentioned it and was excited about it. There's been a lot of hype about the game. It was waitlisted, and now it's being canceled. And while that's fine if it's waitlisted and maybe you reserved a copy, which you should never do. Do not ever buy a game before it comes out. That is silly. Don't do it. And if you did, you probably get a refund through Steam or what have you. No issue. However, for everybody in Japan who has spent money on it, getting in-game currency and presumably buying battle passes and skins and all that stuff, they're just out money. They're not getting any refund. It's not like the game was out for a significant amount of time. But in lieu of offering them a refund, they are just going to give them game currency, free game currency until it eventually dies. So like you can look cool while you fucking like
While you wait for the inevitable.
While you wait for the inevitable. What the fuck? Like, oh my. And honestly, if that initiative had real teeth, real biting power, something like this either A, would go the distance and it would get real support and real backing and a decent amount of work, or B, they just wouldn't be wasting time with this and we could have these people working on something that's going to make it to market fully, that's going to work functionally, and is going to be hours of fun for the people who want to buy it. And instead, it's just half fucking measures.
That's actually crazy. I just looked up Blue Protocol and it released only 12 weeks ago.
12 weeks.
Yeah.
And see, that's too. I'm sorry. They should be getting a refund. They should just be getting a refund. That's not a. That's you promised things. There were season passes, and oh, cool, you get the first and only season pass for free if you buy. Come on, get out of here. No. That's I don't know. That's weak tea.
Well, hopefully the Stop Killing Games initiative pans out. We'll see. It's going to be hard to keep momentum going on that thing for a long time because most gamers' attention spans are quite short. But we can hope and cross our fingers. Yeah.
That's yet another symptom of the sickness in the gaming industry right here.
I'm sorry, I have to issue a retraction. The game came out 10 weeks ago.
Oh.
Came out June 14th. That was halfway through.
It's going to make
June,
it
2 months ago.
It's going to make it 6 months and 4 days. January 18th, right?
That's crazy. That's like legitimately crazy. This is an MMO, isn't it?
Yeah.
Wow.
And then when you got, Bandai Namco has been making games for fucking ever. If you play video games, you know the name Bandai Namco.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Amazon, sorry, business daddy, who's got deeper pockets than that? How are they not just either A, making this game work, or B, just giving people a refund? I don't know.
Yeah, that's crazy. That timeline is bananas. Well, you got one more for us, don't you?
I do have one more, and this is something to be excited about. I feel, for me, I'm excited about it. So this week we got some serious news on the updates for progress in The Witcher 4 and for a Cyberpunk 2077 sequel. Now, this is early days, boys and girls. Early days. Okay, so there's no gameplay footage. There's no storyline hints. It's just that they finally are moving forward in pre-production on The Witcher 4. So every they've decided on art direction and stuff like that. They have people in line in place, and it really is starting to truly be worked on and truly move forward. So that's awesome. Seeing how in 2015, oh boy, what a time. The Witcher 3, The Wild Hunt was really what established CD Projekt Red as that Game of the Year edition.
Yeah.
Really put them on the map as a developer, got people talking about them. Now, Cyberpunk 2077 almost fucking derailed that, entirely. But they also showed what sticking to it can do with proper work, a right amount of time, and honestly, a bitchin' fucking show on Netflix. Let's keep it 100.
It didn't hurt.
It didn't hurt. So and I feel with their DLC that they put out, Liberty, I'm brain farting on it, Liberty something another. It's a full, fun, complete fucking game, and now definitely worthy of your money and worthy of being played. So it is also they're also working on the sequel to this. Now that's being done over in the Boston studio. Both, like I said, early days. So at this point, they really only have code names. So we don't even know what they would be called. But I believe Witcher 4 is called Polaris, and Cyberpunk, its project name is called Orion. So we do have project names, and they are being worked on, and it is their number one priority right now. So give them time to cook. No mean messages.
And I mean, yes, if we learned anything from Cyberpunk is, let them cook. But also, CD Projekt Red, as much of a flop as Cyberpunk was right off the bat, not in sales, but in opinion, they continue to work on it and continue to make a truly great game. So yeah, you're right. Let them cook. Now, this doesn't come as much of a surprise. We did talk about a Witcher follow-up probably 2 years ago at this point.
Yeah.
Because some early renders came out from artwork that they were working on for it. They're no longer using the wolf medallion as the wolf sigil as the main artwork for the game. They're doing something a little bit different. So yeah, it's their biggest franchise. Of course, I think they're gonna make Witcher 4, right?
Yeah.
I think it's probably a good thing that they've waited this long. One, CD Projekt Red has been working, all of their talent has been working on Cyberpunk, so that makes sense. But also, just some time to stew. They're practicing what we preach is take some time away from the game. If we had already gotten Witcher 4, that's great for Witcher fans. But I don't know. For me, I think the creative process, allowing some time to fully develop a story and to have something ready to go. You don't make the game until it's realized, right?
Absolutely.
And I think taking some additional time, working on other projects, can influence the creative process a lot. And for the most part, I think that's a good thing.
So a little tidbit more. We do know from this article here that this is the first entry in a new saga, and that the devs are ready to start full-fledged production. So it is moving fully out of pre-production and into that state. So yay. It's very exciting.
I imagine we'll probably hear something, maybe get a trailer in the next 2-3 years. But, it is CD Projekt Red. They do tend to take their time. They usually announce pretty early, right? The wait from the initial announcement for Cyberpunk was until its release was 6 years or something like that, 5 years. So it took a considerable amount of time between the announcement and the realization. And it's the same thing with The Witcher 3. Of course, CD Projekt Red, they delay games until they feel they're ready. So good, again, good for them.
Yep.
So yeah, I imagine we'll probably be hearing some more relatively soon. Soon trademark.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I've got one more thing to discuss.
Alrighty.
If there is one thing I'm kind of known for, it's kind of World of Warcraft. I mean, when you think Andy,
Not Jork in it?
I was also thinking Jork in it.
That's 12% of my time. WoW is 14% of my time. The rest is work and sleep.
Yeah.
So in case you didn't know, in case you don't have TV, YouTube, or the internet, or any friends, World of Warcraft just released a new expansion. It's called The War Within. World of Warcraft has had a history past with me, especially recently. Pretty hard addict up until about 2017 during the Battle for Azeroth era. Now that's 3 expansions ago. I quit then, and while I've come back for I'll drop $15 to see how WoW's doing this month. It's been for short play sessions at a time, and then immediate cancellation of my subscription, and I go back to real life for a little while. More recently, during the very tail end of Dragonflight, with all of the talk of the War Within and the Twitch that I watch and the content that I subscribe to on YouTube, starting to see a lot more of the War Within. And it just straight up piqued my interest. I just started playing WoW again. During the pre-patch event for The War Within, I got pretty hooked doing the Radiant Echoes storyline. And I went hard in the paint. I now have I think 14 max level characters. Now that The War Within has come out, they're all 10 levels below the max level, but max level for Dragonflight. That said, Dragonflight came out in early access. That is, if you bought the Epic Edition of the game. I apologize right now because I am a hypocrite. I bought it. I bought the pre-order with the early access. So I've been playing The War Within since late last week. Normally, of course, I say don't pre-order. In this case, I didn't practice what I preach. So full disclosure, I broke my regular practices. I got FOMO so hard. Literally the last half hour before the early access popped, I was ready to click that button, and I just pulled the trigger. It didn't hurt that I had $15 in my Battle.net wallet.
Yeah,
that's kind of what sealed the deal for me. Is just well, I'm not going to use that for fucking anything else. So let's go ahead and do that. So I pulled the trigger, and honestly, I'm glad I did. Fucking loving the game. There's a lot to talk about when it comes to The War Within. I'll give kind of a brief overview of some of the new content and what the stuff that I've been enjoying about it. So far, it's been pretty universally enjoyed as far as the game goes. As far as the politics behind it, that's a different story. Of course, there's a lot of people that are upset about early access for those that bought the Epic Edition of the game. And there's people that would rather paid.
What is that about?
Well, so Epic Edition of the game, if you pre-ordered it, would give you 4 days early access to The War Within. And people are upset that you had to pay a premium price for that, because if you got the standard edition, you didn't get the early access. Gotcha. So yeah, buying the upgraded version of the pre-order allowed you to play a few days early.
I mean, that's what the upgrade's for, right? I mean, I get it that it's greedy, but that's what they put it in for. Yeah. I mean, was there other differences too?
Yeah, it came with some cosmetics. Yeah, it did come with a month of game time also.
So there's a couple little boons in there. So I mean, I can understand being grumpy about it. I'd be grumpy about it, honestly. I'm gonna be right there with you, brothers and sisters. But you should have. I mean, if you want the early access, you got to throw out the extra bucks. Sorry.
They've done tiered. Well, it's different though. This is an MMO, right? Where everybody plays together.
Yeah.
This isn't just getting a little bit of early access to a single player game or even just an online multiplayer game. It's having access to the game that gives you power scaling better than others, right? Because power scale is persistent. Okay,
that's fair. You do get first bite at the apple then.
Yeah,
I see.
Yeah.
That's yeah.
And that's true. I mean, I was level 80 before the actual release date of the game, right? Because I had paid for early access. 80 is the new level cap.
Got to that in 4 days.
Well,
I got to that in 2 days. There's actually people that have been able to hit level 80 in 5 hours. The leveling content is actually really fast.
That's bad.
I would say so, generally speaking, yes. In this case, they've separated the mainline stories via the quest line and alternative quests. So now you can just breeze through the campaign without having done any of the tertiary quests and get all of the lore and story. If you do that, you're only going to be level 74. So there's a few issues with how fast some people have leveled. Yes, definitely. But there is lots of content to bite your teeth into, even at max level, because that content stays relevant. And I'll get to that here in just a little bit. So just a kind of brief explanation of the things that have changed. So I've got a little video playing here, and I'm just, I'm going to be talking over it. So one of the first things is war bands. You can now select 4 characters to enter your warband that can share currency, can share bank tabs, and it makes it really easy to move currencies and loot across your characters. There's been a few other quality of life things, like when you pick up loot that isn't relevant for your class in old dungeons or even new dungeons, your other characters will be able to use that for transmogrification. Super nice, like really easy to throw into the game quality of life stuff. I'm all for that. Here I'm showing the currency tab. These are radiant echoes. I'm just demonstrating that I can move these currencies from one character to another in the standard UI. Super simple, and I think that's another great quality of life thing. I think if you have earned this stuff, you should be able to move it between characters. Now, there's stuff that you can't, for sure, but as far as the main currencies, like honor and reputations, those can be shared amongst your characters in your warband. So I can send honor to another character or receive honor from another character on anybody in my warband, which is really nice. It takes a lot of the grind for individual characters out of the equation.
Yeah, well, I mean, it makes sense in the warband because you're like, you go there with a note being like, hey, this fucking badass dude said it was cool. Give me this fucking griffin.
Yeah. So, right here, we're in the capital city, and I'm going into the leveling content. The first place that we were at is the Isle of Dorn. We are entering now the Ringing Deeps, and these areas are expansive. They are multi-tiered, and because the core of the game takes place underground, they exploit the shit out of additional room with caves and stuff like that. These zones are massive, and they have quests everywhere. There are many factions within these zones. I only go through small areas of this zone. Otherwise, this would be like an hour and a half long video. And yeah, the art direction, the stylization of everything, I think is fantastic. Right now, I'm flying into Hallowfall, which is now the city that the Arathi escaped to, if you remember the faction, the Arathi. And there's an entire thing there. Uther's daughter lives there. That's where I think this expansion, aside from mechanics, really excels, is the story, the plot, and connecting dots from previous expansions. We're getting follow-up to a lot of stuff that hasn't been touched in a long time. I think we're definitely starting to feel Metzin's claws really digging in and really bringing back the old characters and stories that have been beloved for so long. I'll tell you right now, without too many spoilers, it's spoiler light, that they kill off a main character within the first few minutes of the expansion, and they haven't been pulling any punches as far as the story goes. I'm really appreciative about how just absolutely brutal this expansion has felt so far, and how they've really brought the war back into Warcraft. Mechanically speaking, the game has also been phenomenal. Again, we have these really large tiered zones. Everything has felt very unique. Even within the same zone, you go into plenty of areas that look completely different from the other. You experience multiple biomes in these zones and multiple factions, and you're helping out, between rival factions. You're helping the Earthen deal with how to deal with their dead. The questing that you do here seems like it seems almost realistic in a way. There's always going to be the grab 12 snow meese hooves and 4 bare asses quests, but the meat and potatoes here is like really well thought out quests. Again, it's just I'm having a blast with this thing. I think it looks and plays super well. Now, I'm a PvPer, so all this stuff is great, surface level stuff, but as far as my experience with it at the end of the day, probably going to finish all of the questing, and then I'm going to get onto the PvP train. The PvP has been awesome because they've tuned the game so well right now. Now, I don't know how it's going to scale, but right now the tuning feels like actually good. Let's get into that. So they brought out something called hero talents. I play a Retribution Paladin, so you have your normal talents that you choose from. They dictate how your character works. Not only do they have the Retribution Paladin talents, they also have General Paladin talents. You have two very distinct groups of talents. Totally changes how your player or how you play your character. On top of that, they've introduced Herald of the Sun and Templar as hero talent specializations. Those, again, change your rotation or your priority sequence based on the new talent sets that you choose from.
Gotcha.
You can change these at any time outside of combat, which I think is super handy and should have been around from the very get-go. And it adds another layer to combat that was never there before. And like, again, I've played Ret Paladin for 15 years now. And this feels, while I have the comfort of all the buttons that I used to have, the modifications they've made to them, the buffs that you get during combat, it makes it feel fresh and new again. And that makes the gameplay feel new and fresh to me. On top of things like what we're watching right now is me do a delve. Delve is a new feature that came out with the War Within, and these are essentially single-player mini dungeons. They have scales, so you get to choose at the beginning of the delve whether you're going to do tier 1 all the way to eventually you can unlock tier 10. The loot that you find and get at the end of these delves is going to be determined by the difficulty and also by items that you earn outside in the world. You will be able to sometimes unlock better loot from having done world quests or PvP or raiding. These items drop in like every different part of the game. What I'm doing right here, this one is called, I don't remember. Sorry about that.
It's all good.
Yeah. This delve is... So there's a lot to talk about here. So trying to figure out how to do it for like what to talk about first is kind of difficult. But basically you walk in, you get a companion. My companion is Bran Bronzebeard. You can choose whether he's going to be a DPS or healer to assist you. I chose healer as I main a DPS spec. And from there you are doing objective based stuff. It's not just combat. So at the very beginning of the delve, you get a flamethrower so you can clear out the webs that spawn more enemies out. As you progress through the cave, there's lots of combat objective quests, like there's complete the waves of enemies coming at you, which I just showed earlier. What I'm showing now is the boss pull, and it comes with a lot of fun and new challenging things. There's one where you're working with the kobolds, no take candle, and you have to do some resource management with candles. As soon as the candle is snuffed out after 5 or 6 minutes of holding a candle, you start to take persistent damage to your maximum health pool, which is pretty neat. But yeah, the delves so far pretty neat. I've only done a handful of them, probably 5 or 6. I haven't done all of them. There's anywhere between like 4 and 8 of these delves per zone, and they can be done they can be soloed or they can be done with up to 2 other players.
Okay.
Moving on to a more classic content is dungeons. Dungeons are interesting in that there's a new mechanic where you can do solo dungeons. So you see the people that I'm with in this dungeon, those are AI characters. What's really interesting about that, I don't know if you caught at the beginning of the video, the tank pulled and then moved to LOS better. There's going to be another shot here in just a minute where the tank does the same thing. I don't know what kind of training model that they're using for this, but it seemed these things act like very realistic characters. It honestly feels like I queued in the random dungeon finder, and there's very little communication in the random dungeon finder typically. This feels exactly like that. As far as I'm concerned, I could tell no difference between the actions that these AI players were taking versus playing with a group from Random Dungeon Finder. Pretty cool if you're not into playing with others, like, and especially if you're not waiting, like later on during the expansion, you have new tunes that you're bringing into this content. You don't have to wait for queues to pop. You don't have to wait to find a group. So I think it's got a utility. I think it takes
and you
a little
can practice if you're nervous about
that's exactly it, right? Is I know there's a lot of people that they're afraid to suck in a group of people.
Yeah, because that's my worst fear, and it happens often, is getting someone yelling, "Get good."
Right. But
because I'm not going to.
Sure.
I'm going to get better, but I'm not going to get good.
Yeah, and there are a lot of people that are like super hardcore min-max, and it's, you know, as far as the enjoyment goes in this game for me, has killed a lot of the enjoyment. I've always been like a pretty hardcore player, but one of the things that I enjoy the most is being a hardcore player that's willing to teach people how to play. Even when it comes to the base mechanics, there's a lot of people that haven't even played MMOs. This might be their first time playing an MMO. And I think this gives a way to start entering this content without any kind of embarrassment or without any kind of anxieties about being judged by other players. Mm-hmm. I think that's a really cool thing. So while it's not necessarily a mechanic that I'm going to be utilizing a lot, but it still allows a fresh character or somebody that's a little bit nervous about playing with others to be able to experience the content in a way that feels genuine.
5 years ago, OpenAI 5 beat the Dota World Championship.
Yeah.
Half a decade ago, they had a neural net train that just beat every human player in a game that we thought was impossible in. So it's not surprising to see Blizzard dipping into that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been 5 years, but I'm sure it's relatively easy now to train a NPC to behave like a player.
You're probably right. But you know, I know this stuff is happening and I've seen it, but actually playing with it is like totally different. And the fact that it actually feels like you're playing with people, I was really impressed by these models and how close they were to the real McCoy. Going back into PvP, it's been incredible. The scaling that they've done. I played in Alterac Valley where it went down to reinforcement game. We got the game was long enough that we got to summon Lokhalar, the Ice Lord. NPCs are so hard to kill that it isn't just rush to van and kill, which is awesome. It's been years since that's changed, and doing some real PvP where you are not a tank that can walk into a crowd of 11 Alliance players and live lord your way for the next 4 minutes until a healer comes. That has been a problem in the past. I feel danger when I'm playing against other players. You know, it feels like skill is certainly a little bit more involved in this expansion than it has been in previous expansions. So I've been enjoying the absolute crap out of PvP. I've been queuing epic battlegrounds, which normally I don't do. These large scale combats have been like incredibly fun. Some of my favorite moments in PvP have been happening like this last week, which is crazy. And then there's a few quality of life things. So they've added, do you remember the add-on Move Anything? Pretty much a requirement for WoW. Built into the game. It's actually been in there for quite some time, but again, I'm a returning WoW player. It's been years since I've played WoW properly. You know, I'm not just checking it out this time. I have full intention on gearing and experiencing the content. And to see that WoW has this built in now is awesome. On top of the edit mode, they've added a pinging system, both for your map and in real world, which is awesome it's almost too little too late, right? But I'm glad that it is in now. It certainly made things in PvP easier where it can be really hard to communicate, where communication is important. Taking the time to chat could mean your death, right? So having a pinging system where you can share, this is my target and please go for them. Like I've got the healer targeted. You know, you can even do assist keybinds so you can target those players immediately. It's super handy. So a lot of really good quality of life things have come out that I'm definitely enjoying, underutilizing because I have old habits, but definitely have been enjoying, especially in PvP. Yeah, man, honestly, it's still really early. Not all of the content is out. Like, there's no mythic dungeons. The PvP season hasn't started, so whatever you're earning now is just basic honor points, basic gear, no elite conquest stuff, no arena, no rated battlegrounds. But I am looking forward to they're doing solo queue rated battlegrounds. They've done solo queue arena, so you can jump in with randos, and the rewards are less than if you were to make your own team and jump in. But it's a level of accessibility that WoW hasn't had in a long time. And it feels like they're really starting to combat the elitism that has plagued WoW for a long time now. So a lot of that stuff is really appreciated.
Yeah, that's good.
They're knocking the story out of the park. I was glued to my seat during the initial events of the expansion launch, and I've been glued since. Yeah, man, I'm super happy. It's been a long time since I've been at work or out driving doing errands that I've been like, I can't wait to get home and play World of Warcraft. And I'm feeling that again in a big way.
Very nice.
Yeah. So sorry, I know I strayed there, which is terrible because I've been practicing this speech for like 2 days, but you know,
Good.
Yeah, I suppose so. I missed out on. I didn't explain the Isle of Dorn and the Ringing Deeps and Halifal, but honestly, most of anybody that's gonna play this game already knows. So, you know, it's one of those things that you should experience if you intend to. And if you're on the fence about trying World of Warcraft, I think now is a good time. I think there is enough that has changed, even in the core mechanics, with the War Within, that you can learn at the same time that the hardcore dedicated players are learning. And you can run those delves and run those dungeons with AI characters and enjoy the endgame content as much as anybody else. And, you know, spare the elitism. Let the elite do their thing. There's still plenty of game for you here. So I'd say if you're on the fence, try the War Within. I think it's I'm having a lot of fun with it. I have really no real gripes other than I had some disconnect issues earlier today, but they implemented a new patch for the expansion today, so that's bound to happen. What are you going to do?
Very good.
Yeah, so I think that's just about it, boys. Do you have anything you'd like to add?
No. I mean, been playing Abiotic Factor, the new update.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
fun.
yeah.
Good content. We found there's fog now. It's bad. It brings
Okay.
bad things. NSS had a graphics update and some quality of life stuff and more content.
Yeah.
Find that out. And yeah.
I'm playing Mass Effect again, and also it's Mass Effect 4, not Mass Effect 5, because Andromeda was not Mass Effect 4.